So for number one, we're going to look for the name and the symbol for this atom right here, 28 protons and 34 neutrons. So we just look for the element first using the 28 protons. So which element has 28 protons? Yeah, nickel right here, Ni, nickel. Okay, so we're going to just write that down. So this one's asking for the name and the symbol. So for the name right here, and then the symbol is Ni. Okay, and then it tells us that this atom has 34 neutrons. So all we got to do for the mass number is just add up protons plus neutrons. That's going to give you 62. So we're going to do nickel dash 62. And then for the symbol, just put a 62 on the top left, and then you're good to go. Okay. All right, that's it. Any questions on that one? All right, for the next one, we're looking at the protons and neutrons for calcium 42. So since it's calcium, it's always going to have the same number of protons. So we just go to the left. And how many protons does calcium have? Yeah, 20. So just write number on the top. Okay, so calcium is going to have 20 protons. Okay, and in order to find the neutrons, all we got to do is take the mass number, the number behind it, so 42, and then just subtract the protons. So 42 minus 20 is going to give you 22 neutrons. Okay. And then for the symbol, same thing as before, Ca, and then 42 on the top left. Okay. So that's pretty much what we went over last time. Any questions on that? I know it's a long weekend, but hopefully it's not too bad. All right, so up until this point, we've been talking about, or the first lecture, we talked about the protons. Last time we met, we talked about the neutrons. Today, we're going to finally talk about what happens when you change the number of electrons. So I know up until this point, I said same number of protons as electrons, right? Now it's not going to be the same, okay? So that's what we'll talk about today. So today, again, we're going to talk about the electrons. And I want you guys to just write this part right here, the one that I highlight. The electrons are going to tell you about the atom's charge, okay? The atom's charge. Okay, you don't need to write this stuff up here. This is stuff we've already learned. Protons tell you the element. Neutrons tell you the isotope. Today, we're going to talk about the electrons, and it's going to tell you the atom's charge. Basically, it's going to let us know, is the atom positive or is the atom negative? And the positive and negative, it just means like on a battery, if you guys know there's a positive side and a negative side, they're just opposite electrical energies, okay? So the electrons are going to tell you if an atom is going to be positive or if an atom is going to be negative. Yes.
There's like a specific label for center nodes.
For, yeah, ions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a couple things, and you guys don't need to copy all this down. I'm gonna briefly go over a couple things. So this first one, don't write this down because we already have this in our notes. We learned in the first lectures, protons are positively charged, right? They have positive energy, and electrons have a negative charge, okay? So that leads to a couple things, okay? If you have the same number of protons and electrons, you get something called a neutral atom, okay? And I want you guys to jot this down right here. But a neutral atom is an atom with no electrical charge. Okay, and the key thing is that they have the same number of protons as electrons. So this is what we've been assuming up until now. We've been assuming the atoms are neutral. So same protons and electrons. And that's what we call a neutral atom. I think it was a question on your first assignment. All right, but today we're going to be talking about something called ions, and ions are atoms that have a positive or negative charge. And the key thing to note about ions is that you're going to have an unequal number of protons and electrons. Okay, so you're no longer going to assume that you have the same number of protons and electrons. And that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today. We're just going to be learning about, hey, how do we know if something's going to be positive or negative charged? All right, now before we move on to the problems, we're going to jump into a couple practice problems. There's two last vocab stuff that we're going to go over. So if an ion is positive, so if something has a plus charge, we call that a cation. Okay, so cation. So easy way to remember that is cats are, I guess, good if you like cats. Okay, and in that situation, you're going to have more protons than you do electrons. So if you got more protons than electrons, it's going to be positive, and we call that a cation. All right, and obviously the inverse is true here. We got a negative, atoms can also have a negative charge, and that's when you have more electrons than protons, and those are called anions. Okay, easy way to remember that. Anne is the name of the girl that broke my heart in kindergarten, and so Anne is negative. Anne is bad. Okay, so cats are good, Anne is bad. All right, so let's do problem number 1. Again, you never need to copy down the questions for this class. You can just write the answers because this is posted on Canvas. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the charge on a magnesium atom with 10 electrons. So charge is just whether or not the atom is positive or negative and how much, okay? So the formula for charge is really easy. It's protons minus electrons, okay? It's going to be protons minus electrons. So I think you guys can try this. I want you guys to use this formula right here, the charge formula. I want you to look up the protons for magnesium, and I want you guys to calculate the charge for this atom right here. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute to do that. Again, you can use your phone calculators if you'd like, or you can just do it the old school way. But I'll give you guys a minute to try solving this part. See if you can figure out if it's a cation or anion, and then I'll show you guys how to write the symbol in just a second too. Okay, so take a minute to do that. Okay, so we're looking for the charge of a magnesium atom, so we need to find the proton. So super easy. How many protons does magnesium have? Yeah, 12, number on top. Okay, so magnesium has 12 protons. Okay, it tells us that it has 10 electrons, so you can just do 12 minus 10, which is going to be 2. Okay, but the key thing about charge is that it could be positive or negative, so we need to specify. So we're just going to write that it's positive 2. Okay, so there you go. That's the answer to the first part. This magnesium has a charge of +2. So just keep that in mind. We need to specify if it's positive or negative. So if it's negative, just make sure you write -2. Okay. All right, let's go to the next question for this part. Is this a cation or anion? Yeah, cation. Okay, cats are good. Remember, it's positive, so it's going to be a cation. All right, and then lastly, we're going to write the symbol. The symbol is super easy. It's very similar to what we've been doing. Magnesium has a symbol Mg. Okay, and then if you guys remember for the isotopes, what we did last time, we put the number right here, right, on the top left. It just goes on the other side. It's going to be on the right side, but this is kind of annoying, but the way that we write ion charges, we always put the number first, and then we put the positive sign. So the answer is going to be Mg2+. Okay, please don't write +2. If you do that on your quiz on Canvas, I think it'll take off points. Just make sure you always put the number first. Okay. So this is going to be the answer for the ion symbol. Okay, so before we move on, let me just give you some or show you guys how to do the notation for a bunch of different charges. So if the charge is +2, we just said that we translated it to 2 plus, right? So an example would be Mg 2 plus. Okay. If the charge is +1, so for example, let's do Na. Okay. We're gonna put the charge on the top right, but we get rid of the 1. We just put a plus sign. Okay. Okay, so make sure if it's a +1 charge, you just put a plus sign on the top right. If this is a confusing, I apologize. I didn't make the rules. It's just how we do it. If the charge is -1, okay, you guys probably can tell. We're gonna put, let's do Cl as an example. We're just gonna put a minus sign on the top right. If it's minus, and then after that, if it's -2, we just put 2 minus. And then same thing with like 3 minus, 3 plus. It's always a number and then the positive or negative sign. Okay. So that's how you can write the charges for the ion symbols. Okay? The only thing you really need to worry about is the +1 and -1. You just put a plus sign or minus sign. Any questions about that? Hopefully not too bad. All right, so we're gonna do 2 more practice problems just to make sure that we're all on the same page about this, and then I'll get you guys started on your assignment. So same thing as before, you never need to copy down the table for your notes. You can just write number 2 and just put them in order, right? So put your answer 17, 20, 18. Okay. I'm gonna give you guys I'll give you 4 minutes to try to fill out the entire table. Get as much done as you can. You can work with the person next to you. Just a reminder from this one right here is kind of combining what we learned last time and this time. The number on the top left is going to be your mass number. Okay, and the number on the top right is going to be your charge. Okay, so that's my little reminder for you guys. Try to get as much done as you can, and then we'll see if you guys got it in about 4 minutes. Okay, so good luck, guys. Again, you can work with the person next to you, and make sure you use your periodic table for this one. Okay, so let's start with number 2. First thing we want to do is look at the protons. It's 17. So which element has 17 protons? Yeah, chlorine or Cl, right? So for the symbol, we're just going to write Cl. Okay. Next, we want to figure out the mass number. So the mass number is going to be the protons plus the neutrons. So 17 plus 20 gives you 37. So we're going to put 37 on the top left. Okay. Alrighty, and then for the charge, you just need to do protons minus electrons. So 17 minus 18 is going to give you -1. Okay, so we're just going to put a negative sign on the top right. Okay, there you go. That's going to be your complete symbol for number 2. All right, any questions on that one? Anything confusing? Yeah, I'll write the formulas up here just so that you guys have a reference. But for the number on the top left, the mass number, we just do 17 plus 20, which is how you get 37. And then for the number on the top right, we do 17 minus 18, which gives you -1. Okay, so it's just the formulas that we've learned. You just plug and chug, and you get your charge and your mass number. All right, let's go on to number 3. Number 3, we're working in reverse now, but it's pretty much the same principle. So let's start with the protons because it's going to be the easiest. So we have W. So W is in the middle of the periodic table, and it's going to be tungsten. Tungsten is right here, and it has 74 protons. Okay, so W is going to be 74 protons. So that's gonna be your protons. Let's move on to the mass number. So we said that the mass number right here, 141, is going to be protons plus neutrons. So all we gotta do is we just need to go on our calculator and just subtract. So 141 minus 74, and that'll give you 67 for your neutrons. And again, we could get this by doing 141 minus 74. All right, and then for the charge, really easy. We just want to look at if it's positive or negative. So if you take a look at it, it's positive, right? So if the charge is positive, do we have more protons or more electrons? Yeah, more protons. Okay, so the charge, since it's positive, that means we have more protons than we have electrons. It's positive 1. So how many more protons do we have? Yeah, just one more. We have one more proton. Okay, so that means we have one more proton than electrons. So the number that's right underneath 74 is 73. So that's going to be our electron. And then if you want to check your answer, you can always do 74 minus 73, and that'll give you positive 1, which is your charge. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's what we'll be doing today for our assignment.